Ryan Goodman and Tangway podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Hey, everybody. It is that time of the year. We're down to the Sweet 16. So generally, we talk about the NBA here on the Bob, Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tangway along for the ride, Zoom and podcast. But we are going to do the NCAA hoops. Jeff Goodman is a very busy man. We're going to start with him first. And then Bob and I are going to stick around, talk a little Celtics and Jaylen Brown. And we do want to tell you that we are driven by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, now live in Massachusetts. The Ryan Goodman Tangway podcast and Zoom brought to you by FanDuel. Again, America's #1 sports book, been live, up and running in Massachusetts, and new customers in Mass can get on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Okay, guys, let's get to the big news, coaching moves. Going to kick it off. We're going to start with Bob Ryan. Rick Pitino going to St. John, and then we'll get into Ed Cooley. Your thoughts, Bob?
I go all the way back to, obviously knowing about him as a point guard at UMass, and knowing him from the time he took the UMass, the BU job,
right,
and then having a lunch with him in Providence when he took that Providence job after he had been assistant with the Knicks. Had lunch with him in Murphy's, the famous deli in downtown Providence, the Greek deli owned by, the Irish name deli, owned by a Greek with and all that. Anyway, if you hire Rick Pitino in college, almost 99% of the time you have upgraded yourself as a coach who can get the job done in college basketball. He is as great a college basketball absorbent as has ever existed. This includes Wooden, Krzyzewski, and anybody you want to Smith, anybody you want to name. This guy is Mr. College Basketball. He gets the whole thing. He identifies high school talent. He can recruit high school talent. He can improve high school talent. He can get you as far as you need to go. Now, he lost his job at Louisville for a very reprehensible reason. And Rick Pitino had prided himself and bragged about the fact that nothing would happen where he was that he didn't know about. And then when the bleep hit the fan in Louisville, when there was irrefutable accounts of shenanigans.
Well, there were a lot of things. Like he wants to deny, and he. I don't want to interrupt here, but I just want to set the record straight. Like, it was a buildup of a bunch of different things why he got fired, right? The NCAA cleared him of all wrongdoings in the FBI case, but it wasn't about just that why he got fired at Louisville, right, Bob? It was just constant drama.
Right. And then after bragging to the world about how he was hands-on and knew everything that was going on, he suddenly became Sergeant Schultz.
Right.
He knew nothing. I know nothing. Rick, come on. Okay. So then he goes to Greece.
Yep.
Okay. Because he's son on ground in America. He goes to Greece. He then is thrown a lifeline by Iona in New Rochelle, New York, a wannabe school that among other things once had Jim Romano as a coach. But they've never gone anywhere. They're in a mid-major conference. The ultimate claim to fame is that Richie Guerin went there, and then they gave us Jeff Rulin under Valvano. But the point is, they salvaged him, Catholic school, by the way, and now he is going to a school where, oh, by the way, the school president knows him and is vouching for him, Father Shanley, and absolving him of all the transgressions. So no more Sergeant Schultz. So there's two things here, and then I'll get cede the floor. The morality factor, which you the listener are free to judge, and the basketball factor, which is irrefutable, which is that he is as good a college basketball coach as has ever lived. And if you want that and you can walk away from the other stuff, more power to you, St. John's.
It's been a long time since St. John's was relevant nationally, Bob, right?
30 years.
here. It's been 20 years, 30 years, whatever it's been since they were really, really relevant. It was, you're talking Chris Mullin days.
I can speak to it, believe me. As you know.
Yeah, I mean, one failed attempt after another. Mike Anderson being the latest. Chris Mullin, prior to him, was not the hardest working guy. Rick Pitino works his ass off. He's 70 years old, but I just saw him in Albany. He does not act like a 70-year-old when
he says he's 70, going on fill in the blank 30, 40. And by the way, he's right. I believe it. Yes. I don't know how that feeling is physically. Okay, you can feel that way, and there's no reason to doubt him on that. None. He doesn't have.
He's going to get him relevant. Listen, I would be shocked if they're not in the tournament twice in the next 4 years. I would be shocked. With a transfer portal, his guards at Iona were really, really, really good. Now they got blown out in the second half to UConn. He could bring those guards with him.
He will.
St. John's and add a couple bigs through the portal. And trust me, I might rank him in the preseason top 25 next year right now without knowing who the hell Rick Pitino has, because I'm that confident of his coaching abilities. He's that good. Rick's kind of full of shit, right? We've known that over the years. Like you alluded to it just now. I mean, that's kind of Rick. He changed his mind 100 times, whatever. Ultimately, for Rick Pitino, he felt like he had given Iona a couple really good years, a couple NCAA tournaments, didn't have to move, stay in New York, and now have a chance to be back in the Big East where he doesn't have to win 3 games in 3 days just to get in the NCAA tournament. And trust me, he will be back in the NCAA tournament. This was a home run hire for St. John's. I don't think a lot of people at St. John's wanted to make the hire, even at the highest level, but they felt like they had to because there was so much pressure to hire Rick Pitino, so much pressure to be relevant again, and this was the guy to do it.
I got to go back quickly aside. In 1980, I think I talked this story before, but I'll tell you once more. Here's what St. John's is all about. In 1983, at the Big East tournament that year, it was announced that the Big East tournament would be in Madison Square Garden, for in perpetuity, right? The buzz that tournament was, oh my God, St. John's is going to win every year. Well, we know that didn't happen, but now they got Pitino, and I'll tell you, if they made that same announcement today, and they have, we're right back. Now it's 40. It's
going to be fun. It adds to the intrigue.
Now, I'm not saying they're going to win every year, but Jeff, I totally concur with you. Nothing that we know about in our experience would prevent us from saying that he's going to succeed. Right. He is.
You said it. He's as good of an X's and O's guy and a talent developer
and recruiter too. He can identify a high school guy and know how to make him better in a way. Now, the fun part about it for me is the aspect that did not translate into the NBA.
Well, it did for the Knicks,
right?
He did not transfer. No, with the Celtics.
The Celtics, I know, but the Knicks, they were okay.
The Knicks were good, but the league had changed dramatically.
There's no question. I remember with the Celtics. I was there. I mean, Bob, we were all there. I mean, I remember walking across Causeway with him, and he was talking to Suet Lane about what kind of sneaker deal they should get. That's back when all the coaches wanted to be CEOs. Remember, Pat Riley wrote the book, right? Yeah. So they all wanted to be CEOs instead of basketball coaches, right? And you're right. He is one of the greatest basketball coaches
college
of all time. Right. They'll listen to him. The problem was Antoine Walker wasn't listening to Rick Pitino anymore when he was making more money than Rick. Rick was yelling nonstop. Like, it doesn't work in the NBA. That level of dominance and control did not work in the NBA.
Plus, Jeff, he was the GM and the coach, and he was a horseshit GM.
Yeah, he was a chief of marketing, and he was everything. He was trying to be everything. Hey, Greg Dickerson, who's the PA guy, had to get approved by Pitino. I mean, I just, all this. It's like
first thing he did was run off a bunch of guys, including Rick Fox, who then goes on to win rings in LA. He didn't appreciate what Rick Fox could have brought. He didn't appreciate what Glenn Wesley could have brought. And he had Travis Knight, who got 13 rebounds his first game in BC, and Celtics never did anything else. He was that didn't translate.
Yeah, he wasn't a good team.
What he does from high school to college did not translate from college to the NBA. All right, and the funny thing is, it's like Russia after in the Khrushchev era when they tried to expunge Stalin from the record books. He tried to pretend he never was in Boston. The NBA experience didn't happen.
Never happened.
Right.
It never happened. Right.
And all right, so okay, fine. We'll let. And you know when he quit, and he quit in the middle of a season, he was on the road. I think he was in Miami where he had a house at the time, and he said, "I'll come back and have a press conference in Boston."
Never did.
We're still waiting for that press conference. Okay, so I just laugh at that.
You should go to the Garden and ask for it, Bob. When you go to the Garden, you should show up and say, "All right, I want the press conference now."
But okay, but for St. John's, it's a home run hire. It is a home run hire.
You know what else is a home run hire in the Big East, Bob?
Yeah,
Georgetown getting Ed Cooley.
Okay.
And Jeff, before we get to that, we got to thank our friends at FanDuel. Again, Massachusetts, listen up. The wait is finally over. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is now live in Massachusetts. And new customers in Mass can get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston. Finally, you can bet on all your favorite sports, from the money line to point spreads to player props and more. The app is really easy to use. Even guys like me have figured it out. So bet now on the app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Don't miss your chance to get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston and make every moment more on America's #1 sports book. Pay attention here, folks. 21 plus and present in Mass. First online real money wager, $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbookfanduel.com. Gambling problem? Hope is here. GamblingHelplineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Now to the second big story. Ed Cooley moves from Providence to Georgetown. Jeff, the floor is yours.
All right, so I didn't think it was going to happen. I mean, this is a guy, Ed Cooley, who grew up in Providence. He was Providence. Everybody loved him. And I kept saying to myself, and again, over the last week, people kept telling me close to him that had talked to him, I think he's leaving. I think he's leaving. I think he's leaving. And I'm saying to myself, and I've had conversations with Ed Cooley for 2 years about the Georgetown job, because I have publicly said Georgetown for 2 years now, because Ewing has sucked. They should give him a blank check. Give him a blank check. But I still felt like even giving him a blank check, at the 11th hour, Ed Cooley is going to go to the altar and he's going to say, I can't do this. I can't sign my name on this. I can't. Nobody wants to be loved more than Ed Cooley. I just talked to him right before we got on here, literally. And that's what I said. I said, Ed, you're going to have a hard time going back to Providence. And he sounded just honestly worn down from the day today. I think there was a lot of excitement in Georgetown, obviously, but there are a lot of mixed feelings for Ed Cooley because, again, he's leaving the place that he was at for 12 years. I don't blame him. I don't blame him because here's a couple things. Georgetown, #1, is a better job. Just because they've sucked lately does not mean Providence is a better job. Ed Cooley was a good coach at Providence. Patrick Ewing was a terrible coach at Georgetown. Georgetown has an incredible recruiting base, an incredible endowment. They've got facilities. Yes, the Verizon Center is downtown. That's the one drawback of Georgetown, but it's in D.C. Where would you rather live? I get the cost of living's more. All I'm saying is this was a better job, and Ed Cooley, in his mind, had kind of tapped this thing out at Providence. He couldn't do more. He felt like the ceiling, which is true, is higher at Georgetown. You can get to Final Fours if you get this thing going, and you can rebuild it quickly because of the transfer portal.
All right, I'll have to take that at face. I have to take what you say at face value. I just want to see if he can do it at Georgetown. Providence is, they have their moments. We know that now. Dave Gabbett, and in that era, they went to the Final Four in '73. They went to the Final Four under Pitino. They came very close another time. In Georgetown, other than John Thompson, there's never been anything. Really. Other than John Thompson, it's never been.
Well, how long was John Thompson there?
And so what
is
so
a while, but
great
it's been gone a while.
What is so
I
great?
agree with you, Bob. I agree.
What's so great about Georgetown that other than when John Thompson was there, the kid got him there in the tournament. They beat BC. I remember that year. Jeff Green year, that kind of stuff. But more than Providence, I mean, I don't know that it's a better job than Providence.
All right, I polled this morning. Somebody kind of went at me. I'm not going to say who it was because I don't even want to give him the time of day. But basically, he said, "Why is Ed Cooley leaving? Just to stab everybody in the back?" Blah 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 blah. I don't think he stabbed anyone in the back here. I think again, I get it. For Providence fans, they're pissed off. You left for what we're thinking is a lateral job. I polled about 15 Big East coaches, Bob. Current Big East coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches. You know how many of them, of those Big East coaches, said that Providence was a better job?
None.
Zero. That's right, zero. They know more than you and I do. All
right. But
yeah. From what I've heard, what I've been told, there have been instances where the one particular coach had opportunities to leave Providence and go elsewhere, and sometimes staying at Providence is not good. Like 12 years is a long time for the Providence gig.
Yes,
I've been told that by other Big East coaches.
The other part,
some guys have stayed there too long,
and every time every time he goes out in Providence, guys, he gets mobbed. Right, he can't go anywhere, and I think his wife was worn down from that a little bit. His family's worn down. Where he can go out in DC, nobody's going to know who the hell Ed Cooley is. Nobody. It's a pro sports town. You got politicians. It's huge. Nobody's going to know who Ed Cooley is until he starts winning at the highest level.
Okay. Now, what about the issue? What have you unearthed about when that offer was made? Because some of the bitter people are claiming that he knew he was going to take that job and he was, quote, working for Georgetown during the Big East tournament and all that.
Ourselves.
I don't want to buy into that. What do you buy into that, Jeff?
I think he's recruiting, period, not knowing where he's going to be. So he's recruiting for Providence. But when the questions started coming, the speculation started coming a week ago, I don't think he handled this thing well. But I had a conversation with my wife about it. He did a TV interview the night before he made the decision to go to Georgetown. He did a TV interview with a local Providence TV station and basically was answering the questions of like, hey, I'm thinking about it right now about Georgetown. I don't know what I'm going to do. Now, that's never really been seen before. So everybody who jumped on him like, oh my God, how can you do this? You're screwing it up. My wife looked at me and she was like, what's wrong with that? He was completely transparent. He kind of was. He put it out there that, hey, I'm making this decision. I'm not going to hide it. And again, nobody's going to be happy at Providence. We understand, no matter how he did this, leaving Providence for another school within the league that they considered to be a lateral move, he was going to get crucified no matter what. But obviously, again, then you start hearing things like this, that he's recruiting Eddie Lampkin, kid from TCU, out of the portal and telling him he's going to be at Georgetown. I don't know the answer to that until Eddie Lampkin tells anybody that he was recruiting for Georgetown. I think right now there's a lot of bad rumors going around, and that's what happens in these situations, right? In the world of social media now, anybody can throw out there anything, and it takes on a life of its own. We have there's another bad rumor about Ed Cooley out there right now that's a bunch of bullshit. And again, like I just don't like it. I don't like it because anybody can put it out there, and generally there's very little actual substance to some of this. So until I find out for sure, and I will call Eddie Lampkin and find out, I'm sure he'll deny it. But
I just want to say that my experience with him and what I know about him is that he is more than just a guy who teaches X and O's. That he
loves those kids.
He encompasses life skills that he tries to raise young Black men predominantly, quite frankly, and teach them life lessons, and that he's much more than just a quote unquote basketball coach. And I'm going to stick up for him to that. I don't care what kind of nonsense,
He's a Black head coach taking Georgetown. You don't think that means something to him?
Yeah. So I think Georgetown kids are going to benefit from his personal presence. So
okay, guys, Jeff has a lot of work to do, so let's get on to the tournament right now. During our text chain, I said, should we talk about the upsets? And Bob Ryan, Jeff, and I'll start with you, are these really upsets? Are these the upsets are they upsets anymore? I mean,
FDU beating Purdue is an upset, Gary.
That's an upset. Okay, we'll get back to Bob and Jeff in just a moment. But now I have to tell you that these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business, right? So you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. You want to get the right people. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And it's so easy to post your job. So easy on LinkedIn Jobs. You add your job in the purple hashtag to the hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, so you spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small business rates LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires and leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to, and faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/scribe. That's linkedin.com/scribe to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I mean, the fact is what? How about this? Just to run it down. Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, and Indiana all home.
Yes. Well, that's the world now that we live in, of the transfer portal, #1. This COVID year, this extra COVID year. Like, think about it. Armando Bacot told me today he's coming back for another year at Carolina. So he's taking advantage of the, the fun. Hey, the best story of this is, so he texts me on my flight to Vegas. Okay. This is inside baseball a little bit, but he texts me on the flight to Vegas and he says, hey, Jeff, new number. It's Armando. And I said, hey, how you doing? Whatever. He said, I got some news for you. I'm coming back for another year. He said, I don't want to make it a huge deal and do this big announcement or press conference or any of that. I just want to put it out there. And I'm saying to myself, I got through a bunch of stuff this morning with the name that I'm not going to name. Okay. So I didn't know if it was him. I said, hey man, like I'm on a plane right now. I can't call you. Is it you? So he sends back a picture of him. And I said, do me a favor. Tell me the last text message between the two of us in your previous number. And he typed it back. And I said, all right, now I feel better. Because I was worried. I was going to put it out there. And it was some kid messing with me or something like that, pretending to be Armando Bacot and giving me fake news.
Well, it's happened before.
Yes. So
that's encouraging, because Carolina has some explaining to do. So that's good.
So this tournament, like you said, Bob, it is as unpredictable as ever, because you got older kids, you got 24, 25-year-old kids playing against 18-year-old kids. You got the transfer portal, you got NIL, all these different things that all came in at once. So yes, an upset's not really an upset for the most part, other than FDU and Princeton, I think, are big upsets.
Maybe all you have to know is that among the 4 number ones, the fewest losses of a number 1 seed was 5. Yeah. I don't know how many years in history that's the case. Yeah. So it's that kind of a topsy-turvy year. We had X number of teams as number 1. We had successive weekends, or these 2 out of 3, in which 1 and 2 lost, and one weekend in which 1, 2, and also three others among the top 12 lost. 5 of the top 12 lost. It's that kind of year. The word parity, which we laugh at often, is reality. There isn't a huge gap between 1 and 5 or 5 and 12. And so if there's ever a year where we're going to have quote unquote upsets, it's this year. There's no question. So
you like that, Bob?
I don't give a damn, because my only bracket I filled out had nothing to do. It wasn't for competitive reasons. It was it was for Tony Kornheiser on his podcast, so we have something to talk about. And I'll give you my honor. I'll be honest with you. In my first round, if I were competing, how down the list I was 19 and 13 in my first round.
That's tough.
13. That's that's horrendous. But I'm not embarrassed.
I think it's going to be fun. Again, the ratings won't be as good, but if you're a true college basketball fan, you're going to enjoy this, because you're going to have teams in it right now that aren't normally in it, right? In the Final Four, like you said, Gary, you're not having Carolina. You're not having Duke or Kentucky or Kansas or Indiana. You might have, honestly, you could well have, Alabama. I mean, what I have is Alabama, Michigan State. I still have those two in Houston around. And then I had Kansas. And to me, I'm in Vegas right now, and these two matchups are awesome. Arkansas, UConn, and UCLA, Gonzaga. I was just in the Gonzaga locker room a little while ago, and I'm looking at Drew Timme, and I'm like, he could win one this year. Like, imagine if he won one this year without Chet Holmgren, without Jalen Suggs, but he could legitimately win one this year because they match up very well against a banged-up UCLA team tomorrow.
I picked them, and the reason I picked them to win it all. Am I fervently going to stand by it? No, but I picked them because no Gonzaga team in the last 15 years has entered with less pressure. So many times in our recent experience, they have entered as a 1 seed and with pressure. They're a 3 seed, and it's a wide open year, and they have a guy. I won't say he'd be Danny in the Miracles guy, but Drew Timme, who was already carried through one game, could carry them theoretically through this tournament. I just picked them, but it's not with extraordinary conviction. It was just I had to pick somebody, and I just think this makes sense to me, and I'm rooting for them, and I always root for them. So that's my pick is Gonzaga.
And Jeff, you're still going with Houston. That was your pick from the beginning.
I am, and Marcus Sasser was healthy in the last game.
Yeah.
He's an All-American caliber guard, and that was huge. He played 31 minutes. So that was huge. Yeah, but again, like there's just a lot of good storylines, good games here. I mean, Creighton, Princeton will be fun to see if Princeton can win. FAU gets Tennessee. I mean, I want one of these. I don't know if I want them to get to the Final Four of Princeton and FAU, somebody like that, because you kind of want the big boys by then. But there's I just saw Miami. Miami is so much fun to watch. They beat Indiana in Albany. And I went up to Larinaga after the game, and I said, I looked at Indiana and Mike Woodson and how he coached those dudes. Mike Woodson's pretty even keel, and all his players showed no emotion. The Miami players were having so much fun and loose and smiling and emotional and all that. And I went up to Jim. I'm like, because that's Jim in the huddles, in the timeouts. He's joking around with these dudes, telling jokes, just laughing. And I said, Jim, at your age, to have the connection you do with these kids these days is not easy. But, man, they play like you. They play loose. They have fun. And Indiana was, completely the opposite.
Well, that speaks to Jim Larinaga is one of the short list of coaches that you want to have a beer with.
Yes.
That's it. So now we have one important issue in college before we let you go.
Okay.
Alabama.
Yeah.
If they get to the Final Four, it will be a bleep storm of unprecedented proportions. You will have to sell tickets to the first press conference when people badger them. They can't get off this away from this, Jeff.
Right.
No one should let them off the hook. They should not be playing Brandon Miller.
I will push back. I'll push back on you on that one. I'll push back. Here's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you a scenario. Okay. You've never, I assume, Bob, knowing you, have you ever touched a gun in your life?
No.
Okay. Me either. I shouldn't say that.
I have not.
I had riflery in camp.
A gun, handgun. No, a rifle. Yeah, I was in the Army Reserves. I had to shoot a rifle, but I never had a handgun in my life.
Never did.
Yeah, Bob Ryan defending the country. Look out.
You got it.
If somebody called you and said, "Hey, Bob, I'm sorry, I left my gun in your car. Can you bring it back to me?" What would you do? What was
the gun doing in my car? No, see, I can't really. No, start right there.
What would you do? Tell me what you would do.
I'd like to think. I would say, what are you going to do with it? Why do you want the gun? I would ask him why you want the gun. Yeah,
it's his gun.
I'd like to think I would do that.
It's my gun, Bob. It's my gun. I'm asking you to bring me my gun.
What is this gun doing in your car? This is bad to start with.
I'm not saying it's a good decision. Your
association is bad to start with. What is the gun doing in your car?
I don't disagree with that. All I'm saying is if you called me and said, "Hey, Jeff, bring me my gun. I'd do one or two things, Bob. Either I bring you the goddamn gun quick, or I take the gun and throw it in a ditch somewhere and tell you to go get it. But I don't want it in my car. I don't want it in my car. Do I?
No. But
I'm just playing the other side of the fence here of Brandon Miller making a dumb decision. Absolutely. Did he make a poor decision? Yes. I don't think he knew that gun was going to eventually be the gun used in a murder.
Probably not. No, I give him that.
So I don't, again, I think he's getting crucified, and I'm not sure it wasn't just a bad, poor, immature decision. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I want to believe that because I spent a bunch of time with him in Portland and I talked to his parents, and man, like, here's what I'll tell you about Brandon Miller. He could have made $500,000 somewhere going for NIL. Instead, he went to Alabama and made about $150,000 because the parents said, you know what? That's not what matters to us. What matters to us is playing for a coach we like, playing in a system we like that's up and down, so that eventually he's going to make a whole lot more than that on his first or second NBA contract. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. I want to believe that Brandon Miller just made a poor decision that he would like to have back, not a.
Why would he accede to that pat down thing immediately afterward? Didn't he have the common sense to know I can't be involved in that charade of the pat down thing?
That was
immediately afterward. That's
so,
that's extraordinarily poor judgment.
Yes, dumb. The walk
just
on
involved.
Absolutely dumb.
We have evolved away from a murder, and you're allowing them to go through that. And
all right, Jeff.
I'll tell you what. Well, whatever they're gonna, if they get there,
yes,
it's gonna be a nightmare.
Oh, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
Are you coming to Houston, Bob? You are, right?
Yes, I'm coming to
I'll
Houston.
see you next week.
You will. Okay.
All right, Jeff. Bob and I are going to talk a little Celtics and a little Jaylen Brown. You're in Vegas, correct?
Yes, I'm busy with college. I'd like to say I've seen the Celtics in 2 weeks, but I have not.
That's okay.
I'm watching college hoops, so
We'll take care of that.
I'll be watching what you say about Jaylen Brown.
That he has every right to think he has a right to take the last shot.
Yeah. Well, how about? But the thing we're going to do here, Bob, is one of the things is Jaylen was asked about, what he wants to do with the Celtics. He's got a year next year, is his last year, and this is where I feel bad for athletes. He said, "I don't know."
Yeah.
He said, "I don't know." So then, the headline is he's non-committal to the Celtics. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. And I'm going to take Jaylen Brown's side here for a minute. This year, they've had a great season. They should be in the championship. They went through a bit of a rough patch. We're going to talk about the game against Sacramento, which they played well against. But, they got bored, whatever. They'll be fine. And they're going to contend for a championship. But say they get it this year, or maybe they get it the next year, and he gets a boatload of money to go somewhere else. Now, I know that the Celtics can re-sign him. They get the Larry Bird thing and all that. But maybe he wants to change the scenery. I don't know. I just have no problem with a player saying, I don't know.
Especially when he will have given him like 6 years, 5, 6, whatever the hell. I mean, he will have given him a good chunk of time in which they have gone to certain lengths during the season, and many measures thanks to him and his contributions. He has a right to, when his time comes up, to explore another avenue. No, he doesn't have an obligation to Boston. He's done everything. My God, he's done a lot of things for the Boston Celtics. No, that's not right. It's not fair to put that burden on him to suggest that if he's disloyal or treacherous or anything else, if he decides to exercise any kind of free agent option. They should make it clear to him how much they value him. Now the flip side of that is, there's only a limit to what a team can do when they have so many high-level players. They have to pay them all, and you can't pay them all the way they all want to be paid. But clearly he and Tatum are 1-2. There's no doubt.
No doubt.
In this pecking order. Sorry, Marcus, but they're 1-2, and I hope they can pay him and satisfy him. But no, he shouldn't be vilified if he gets a He's a free agent, and he gets a better offer, and he's given the Celtics a chance, and he's got his prime life ahead of him. And no, this is the world we're living in now. So get off it, people.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe they, say they win it this year or they win it next year, and he wants to go to he wants to live somewhere else. Heaven forbid. There are other cities besides Boston.
He's from Georgia, and he played in California. And right, this is exactly right. But this is the social media world that we live in too.
Well, it is. Or for that matter, maybe for whatever reason it doesn't work the next 2 years. Like, for whatever reason they don't get it done, and maybe he thinks there's all kinds of things here that people just get so sensitive about.
Vilified just by accepting.
I hate it. I hate it. And the guy's never done any. I mean, I'm just a fan. I'm just a fan. Okay, now many people think that Sacramento game, right at the ship, they're 5-5. We all know they went through a bit of a dipsy-do here. They had injuries, guys didn't play, they became disinterested. So where do you feel the team is at right now?
Well, right now I feel that they're teasing. That was a tease. So that's a great start back on the road to recovery, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. The win, the beat, because Sacramento was a good test. Sacramento was playing well. They're the best Sacramento team in almost 20 years. Yeah. Okay. Fine. That was very encouraging, and I like the balance of the offense as well beyond Tatum.
Yeah, and 5 guys in double figures.
Yeah, it was fine. Okay. Now I'm not convinced that they've got the religion back, but that's a good start. That's all. I think that was a potential tease, but definitely we were happy to see that at this, because now and especially based on everything we've been reading from all the principals with Brad Stevens and Missoula saying, our big problem was we're turning it over in the fourth quarter. I thought Gary Washburn had a very enlightening column in the Globe 2 days ago in which he annotated, this is empirical evidence. This is not fact or opinion. This is fact, not opinion. Their numbers in the fourth quarter are horrendous, had been horrendous, among the bottom, not only fifth of the league, and probably in important offensive statistics in the fourth quarter, and they've blown many games, and they were habitually blowing leads, including a 19-point lead the game before that. So if this is the beginning of the turnaround, good, hallelujah. Now they come home. Let's see more. But yes, I was encouraged, but not not
sold yet. Well, I'm glad that we saw a bit of a lull during the regular season. Not in the postseason. Now, I'll say this about the postseason. I think the postseason run is going to be a little more difficult than people think. I just think that it's going to be competitive. I think Philadelphia is going to give everybody a run for their money. I think Milwaukee. I don't think it's going to be, we know with Milwaukee, but, and I've said this before, the Celtics can have a hell of a season and not get to the finals, but the fans don't want that. I just hope that the players realize that the playoffs, especially the final 2 rounds, are not going to be anywhere close to as easy as this season has been. I would hope that they have half the intelligence we hope they have. They know that, and that the coach knows that. Absolutely, no. Milwaukee right now would be the favorite. They have to be. You have to be rational. If you're stepping back aside and take emotion away and fandom away, Milwaukee's got to be the favorite right now. And they would be 2, and Philadelphia would be 3, barely. And the way Embiid plays scares the bleep out of me. He is playing on it's an extraordinary level. He's doing ridiculously good things for them. Now, and then, you got teams that they struggle with a little bit with with Indiana. And, Cleveland would give them a battle. Cleveland could, so whoever they play, there's teams that, and by the way, if anybody who plays the Knicks, is it going to sweep them? I don't think the Knicks are going to win a couple games. Knicks are, so there's definite competition. Oh, and there's no question about that. That game though, they did come off as much as it was doom and gloom that we were worried about them. They had a 4-2 road trip. They did have a 4-2 road trip, and they ended up on a high note. So let's hope. Now, one of the interesting NBA
realities that I've learned for 50 years. The first game back after a road trip, a lengthy road trip, is often a treacherous, a bad game.
I know. Even
the first
with the great
game back,
Celtics. Even with the great Celtics.
And so in the Bird era, it was true. It was the Havlicek era. So let's see how they handle that when they finally come back to the Garden. Don't say, oh, they're home, they're going to be fine. No, that first game requires enormous concentration and enormous application. But I never, Gar, I was concerned, but I didn't want to panic. I've seen enough of stuff over the years.
I know. But
I was concerned, and they have issues to address. And I think there was enough time to address them. And the Sacramento game was encouraging, but not definitive.
Well, and also the big guy,
And Robert was back, and he made a little contribution.
Right. Yeah, but he's going to be healthy through the post.
But ultimately, let's get this. We have to. We cannot say this enough. If the Boston Celtics are to put the 18th banner up, Robert Williams must be present in every playoff game.
Yes, we know that. Yeah, you've said that from the beginning, Bob, and you're right.
And without him, they're okay, but they're not great. They can be only great if they've got Robert Williams in addition to everything else they have.
We're going to end on that note. Mr. Ryan, always a pleasure. Enjoy the Sweet 16. Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tangway along for the ride. Brought to you by FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston. Make every moment more on America's #1 sportsbook. Bob, we'll talk to you next week.